What happens when democracy collapses overnight? When the man you trusted with your vote is accused of fleeing with your future? This is the story of Mohamed Bazoum, the ousted president of Niger, accused of attempting to escape with his nation's gold. Fact or propaganda? Hero or traitor? Let's dive in. Welcome to our channel, where we uncover the shadows behind power, politics, and propaganda. If stories like this intrigue you, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and join the conversation. Now, back to the gold, the coup, and the president who may have gambled everything. Mohamed Bazoum was no outsider. He began as a humble philosophy teacher, teaching ethics and logic in dusty Nigerian classrooms. But behind that quiet demeanor was a sharp political mind, hungry for reform and unafraid of risk. In the 1990s, he traded chalk for politics, joining the fight against military rule in a country where coups were almost seasonal. He became a founding member of the PNDS Taraya, a party built on socialist ideals and democratic dreams. And he didn't just join politics, he survived it. Bazoum watched presidents fall. He saw allies vanish, opponents disappear, and juntas rewrite the rules overnight. And yet, he climbed, one ministry at a time. Foreign Affairs, Interior, Party Chief. But Bazoum had more than titles. He had a kingmaker, Mahamadou Issoufou, the outgoing president who ruled for a decade. Their alliance was deep. Issoufou didn't just endorse Bazoum, he cleared the battlefield for him. Bazoum's main rival, former Prime Minister Hama Amadou, was barred from contesting, convicted in a highly controversial baby trafficking scandal. Many called it political sabotage. And so, in 2021, Bazoum won narrowly, in an election marred by violence, burning polling stations, and 8 deaths. He emerged victorious with 55% of the vote. It was, on paper, the first peaceful transfer of power in Niger's post-colonial history. The West celebrated. France and the U.S. poured in military support, training, and aid. Bazoum was their man in the Sahel, a secular leader in a volatile region battling Islamic extremism. But beneath the applause, the ground was already cracking. Because Bazoum was an outsider in a very specific way, he was Arab in a military dominated by the Hausa and Zarma ethnic groups. He didn't come from the barracks, and in Niger, the men with guns still write the final chapter. On July 26, 2023, everything changed. On the morning of that day, the silence in Niamey, Niger's capital, was deceptive. What seemed like another sweltering summer day in the Sahel quickly spiraled into a constitutional nightmare. President Mohamed Bazoum, still in office, still making calls, was abruptly locked in his presidential residence. Phones were cut. Guards he trusted turned. The gates to the palace were sealed from the inside. And at the center of it all, a man no one outside Niger had really paid attention to. General Abdourahmane Chiani. Chiani was no fresh-faced rebel. He had been head of the Presidential Guard for over a decade, an elite unit with access, loyalty, and license to act without question. Ironically, Bazoum had kept him in place, even when many advised otherwise. Chiani was close to former President Issoufou and had once even foiled a coup attempt in 2021. But now, he was the coup. In a televised statement, flanked by grim-faced officers in fatigues, Chiani declared that the military had intervened to save Niger from collapse. His accusations were scathing. Bazoum had become a puppet of foreign interests, especially France and the U.S., was failing to stop the jihadist insurgency ravaging the countryside, and was hoarding wealth while the people of Niger lived in extreme poverty. But this wasn't just about ideology. Whispers had already begun, in June, that Bazoum was planning to replace Chiani as head of the Presidential Guard. The general had become a liability in the eyes of the palace, so Chiani struck first, a preemptive coup to save himself. Wrapped in the flag of national salvation, Bazoum, from inside detention, called it what it was: a betrayal of democracy, a hijacking of Niger's fragile progress by men with medals and guns. But it was too late. The generals had the palace, the media, the airwaves, and Mohamed Bazoum, he had only his voice, and the silence of a world that watched but did not intervene. But just when the world was still reeling from the sudden coup, came the real twist. Within 72 hours of Bazoum's detention, the junta, through a mix of state broadcasters, leaked WhatsApp messages, and shadowy telegram channels, began circulating a story so dramatic it felt ripped straight out of a spy thriller. Mohamed Bazoum, they claimed, had been caught red-handed, trying to escape from house arrest with his family, and a convoy full of Niger's gold. The allegations were as bold as they were unbelievable. That Bazoum had secretly arranged trucks to smuggle out hundreds of kilos of gold reserves, not digital transfers, not offshore accounts, but physical bars of glittering wealth hidden in military crates. The plan, they said, was cinematic in scope and desperation. Step 1. Break his house arrest under the cover of darkness. Step 2. Link up with loyalist soldiers still sympathetic to his presidency. Step 3. Reach the Niamey Air Base, where a helicopter or private aircraft was reportedly on standby. Step 4. Fly west, possibly to Nigeria or Chad, where Bazoum had long-standing diplomatic ties and political goodwill. Step 5. Live in exile, rich and protected, while Niger descended into uncertainty. The junta claimed the plot was intercepted just in time, that they had intel, surveillance, and even eyewitnesses, that the trucks were seized. And Bazoum? Back behind locked doors, now under even tighter surveillance. But here's the catch. No photos, no videos, no names of officers involved, not even a blurry CCTV still. The so-called gold escape was built on rumors, radio silence, and regime press releases. Independent journalists called it a smear campaign, a classic coup playbook tactic: discredit the deposed leader, paint him as greedy, bury legitimacy beneath scandal. Yet the story stuck. It flooded Nigerian social media. It was whispered in markets, debated in cafes, and repeated on national radio. To the junta, truth was irrelevant. What mattered was perception. But as the dust settled and the headlines cooled, a more pressing question began to emerge. Was any of it even real? Or was this the junta's masterstroke of propaganda? A story designed to kill sympathy, silence dissent, and justify their coup. International media began to push back. There were no photos, no convoy footage, no flight logs. Not a single credible source could confirm the gold, the escape, or the plan. The tale was starting to rot from the inside. The gold escape? It reeked of disinformation. A classic playbook from juntas across Africa: criminalize the deposed, create a villain, distract the people. Meanwhile, Bazoum's supporters at home and abroad called for his release. The UNECOWAS and Western powers demanded a return to democracy, but the junta wasn't budging. Niger today is teetering. Once an ally of the West in fighting jihadist insurgents, now isolated under sanctions and turning toward Russia and the Wagner Group. Bazoum remains under house arrest. No trial, no clear charges, just whispers of treason and gold. Was Mohamed Bazoum a reformer betrayed by ambition? Or a failed leader trying to steal his country's future under the cover of night? In a region where coups are becoming the new constitution, truth is the first casualty. And gold? That's just the bait for a story more sinister than we imagined. If you found this story as shocking as we did, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We bring you the untold, the unseen, and the unbelievable, one story at a time.